So I lost my job recently in the past 2 hours. I didn't feel too bad because it's not my main job, but obviously sort of been looking for jobs in order to replace the one that was lost, which I think I found, but I haven't, obviously gotten any feedback as yet. It kind of makes you realize how much you depend on, the little jobs in life, I guess. Um, it wasn't like my major job. My major job is still fairly strong, but it was just a little job that gave me, an extra few hundred every couple weeks. So that was good. But yeah, I'm always trying to sort of see what I can afford and what I cannot afford. I'm trying to save up for a house at the moment, but at the moment I can only afford a fairly cheap house, which I'd have to go out into the country for. I was thinking about doing that, but I'm not sure if I should go cheap or if I should just elongate my rent. Sometimes I think, oh, cheap might be okay because cheap usually comes with an okay house that has a little yard. Whereas, the one that I'm waiting to buy that's rather expensive is an apartment with no yard. So, I think sometimes I maybe, starting off at a cheap house would be okay. Who knows, I might even stay there if it proves to be fairly safe. But it's really hard to find cheap houses anyways. So I might just give up on the cheap house and go for the one that I was going to go in the first place, which is a rather expensive apartment. But I'll keep searching. But you never know, I might find a one in a million bargain somewhere. I mean, I found quite a few nice places, but I don't know the areas very well, and I have to go out of town where I live in order to live somewhere else. That wouldn't be a big blow because I'm always thinking whether I'd like to vacate this town and go into the next town. But it'd be different, like to not live in a place with such strong public transport. So far, only Victoria and Queensland have fairly strong public transport. New South Wales has a little bit iffy public transport, unless you're sort of moving somewhere by coach. Um, there's not usually too many public transport options. A person is usually expected to have a car, bike, or walk. So so I'm not sure what it'd be like to live in other places. I don't know if it's dangerous, or whether I'd be broken in. In the cheap areas where I live currently, I found a nice apartment that is a bit out of town, but it is near a sewage treatment plant, and that's not exactly where you want to live, I suspect, because sewage obviously stinks. And so I've been sort of been on the internet, and people who live near sewage treatment plants really hate the smell. So I don't know whether I want to move to a cheap place like that anyways. Um, but I keep my options open, and keep searching. But so far I'm sort of still deciding what I want to do. You never know, I might end up going for the expensive apartment and rake the bills for quite a few years. But yeah, I'm not totally 100% sure what I'm going to be doing, or whether I'll just stay in a rental for ages. Um, the rental's fine, to many extents. I'd rather live in a rental with different kinds of people sometimes, but where I'm living is okay. Despite the fact that it was broken in once or twice. But it's not too bad. Uh, so um, so I just keep renting for a while and see what options grow, whether I still want the apartment in a year or whether I want to just go cheap now. I could go cheap now, I could buy a house as long as it's cheap, but I don't know how safe that is, especially around this district where there are many break-ins and many drug users. So, I just have to keep my options open. I mean, the houses I found in Nextown are excellent, very cheap. I'd probably be able to have a good time. But I don't know about the area, whether it's prone to bushfires, like if there are bushfires around the mountains, whether the smoke engulfs the valley of where these places are, and whether there are decent escape routes to get away from bushfire if bushfire spreads into community areas. So far, I don't think I've researched any such bushfire in the zones that I've been looking, but I'd have to just continue to research and keep my eyes open. There was a lovely place in some sort of mountain dale or something, somewhere in South Australia, which I really liked, but it's not. It doesn't have as many places to go to as where I currently live, so I think, oh, that would be a lovely kind of country kind of lifestyle, but I don't know whether it would be wise, because I can't drive at all, so I'm always relying on a public transport system. So I don't know whether I should go somewhere else or whether I should stay in the city and see what I can find. There are sometimes places that are fairly cheap and affordable, but you know, people are really dark-minded in this city, and I don't always like that. I don't always sort of, you know, I don't like this spiritual activity that I kind of sense all the time. But you know, you can live here, you can survive okay, but you know, there's a lot of really iffy people. You know, things happen to people in the workplaces, and they start to go and split personalities and stuff. I don't really want to delve too much into it, because I think my own family has been tainted a little bit by sort of this sort of small, fairly large-scale corruption when it comes to how people are living in their bodies, how they're being treated and stuff. But that's why I thought, oh, maybe if I get out of town, it would be a good idea. But like I said before, I don't have a car. I don't know how to drive, so I don't know whether that's a good idea or a bad idea. I don't know about the zones, whether they exist, whether they're prone to be able to catch on flame, or whether or floods. But I think I found a couple of places which are very small, which don't usually have too much flooding. But they don't have wide variety of public transport like here. Like here, you can walk down the street and find a tram right away. There, you know, you're lucky if you find a bus. And as far as I can tell from the maps that I've been looking at all day, there's no real bus services to be able to take you to a supermarket or something. And there's no one decent shopping strip. The shops are sort of, you know, there are small scale shopping centres, but not like major shopping strips like that. You can find a heap of shops, you can find a Subways, you can find thrift shops, you can find a range of things in one area. All the other shops are kind of scattered around, so that sort of is a bit of a downer as well. And sometimes you find even shopping centres with medical centres attached, and the medical centres are the same, scattered around rather than attached to the shopping centre, which is a little bit of a downer. So yeah, there are downsides to sort of thinking about moving to a completely new area that I don't know at all. But the good side is I'd experience life outside of where I live now, and I'd be able to score a cheap apartment. But downside is it's probably a little bit second rate than what I expect or what I'm used to. So I don't know whether I should move, spread my wings, or I should stay and, you know, have the same circulatory lifestyle with the spiritual issues that I have, um, and just live like I live, not really discover anything because there's nothing really to discover at all. You can only just exist and sort of keep living your own little life. But nothing to really discover. I mean, most people are sort of deadheads in the city, and you really can't meet anyone new because they've got large scale psychiatric wards where people come in and out of the mental institution. They have their own large scale issues, mental issues. There's and it's really hard to know people because they're basically, a lot of them are very violent, and so you just think, well, I don't really want to know these people. It's like school. I don't want to know large majority of the people there, so I just sort of just go my own way. But that's not really an issue with me. I kind of prefer doing that, but yeah, sometimes I think, is it the city or is it me? Maybe I should change the city. Maybe I'll meet some nicer people, but it's really hard to tell most of the time. But anyways, those are my issues.